It's never too late to be the parent you want to be. And it's also not never too late to be what you want to be, especially when you're willing to work for it. So recognize the seasonality of life, of your parenting journey, as well as your business.
What's up, y'all? I'm Lauren.
And I'm Adrian.
And this is the Two Mics,
Two Glasses
podcast, where two best friends discuss business ownership and life.
Yes.
How are you?
I am doing good. I am excited, as always, when we have a guest. But I'm very excited because this is a journey. She's going to talk about a journey I haven't yet embarked on yet, which is parenting.
Ooh. It's kind of scary, but I'm sure that we'll learn a lot of things.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah, so you previously met Carol before, right?
Yes, I met Carol at the Power Networking Conference. We were kind of like booth mates. She's like right next to us. And I just loved her story. I loved what she was able to create from the things that she's been through. And I think she'll be great inspiration for our listeners. So I'm excited to dig in and get to it. So
yes, awesome. I'm excited too. Let's get into her bio. Carol is a parenting consultant and founder of the Parenting 411, where she delivers information parents need from sources they can trust. She gives working moms tools and strategies to consciously connect with their children, confidently teach them skills for life, and courageously tap into the joy in their parenting journey. Carol reaches parents through keynotes, coaching, and the Parenting 411 podcast. Also, she has a podcast too.
Hey.
A 7-time best-selling author, wow, and she has been honored as DC Mother of the Year, Radio Personality of the Year, and a 2024 Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Wow.
How did we even get you on this show?
Oh, Carol, thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
And finally, Carol is the proud mother of twin sons who are now young adults. Welcome, Carol.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
We are very excited.
We are.
Before we dive in, we have a couple fun questions to ask you. So to start, the first question is, what's one of your favorite books and why?
One of my favorites is a book about Harriet Tubman. It's The Road to Freedom by Catherine Clinton. And that was a book that my father-in-law gave me years ago. And I didn't read it the first time, right after he gave it to me, like for my birthday or something like that. But then I did, particularly fascinated with her. Obviously, I knew Harriet Tubman. I mean, got to be honest, back when I was growing up, she was one of the 5 Black people we talked about during Black History Month. So, I knew Harriet Tubman. I'm not exaggerating on that. But just to really hear more about her story, and I marveled anew at what she accomplished. And even more so, not only was I fascinated with what she did with the Underground Railroad, but her life afterward. Like I don't think I ever learned as much about how she lived afterward and how well respected she was and how she moved up north and had this big home and all of that. And of course, a lot of that you saw in Harriet, the movie, if you did watch that movie. But I didn't know, especially the part afterward, I did not know about that. I was very much inspired by that book. And another book I really enjoyed, and I read it because the author was a guest on my podcast, and that's called Your Turn: How to Be an Adult. And it's written by Julie Lithcott Hames, and it's for young adults. And it really is a handbook for everything you need to think about when you're that age and you're moving out into the world. Like, it talks about how to interact with your parents because you've gone through a transition, you're in a different place, your relationship changes a little bit, how to engage on the job, how to take care of basic things like managing your banking, all of these things that young adults wouldn't have been responsible for before. It's a really good book. I would have loved to have had it in my 20s, but I also feel that a lot of the things she talks about, I did get at home. I felt like by the time I did move out in my early 20s after college, I really was prepared. I didn't have that book, but my mother definitely prepared me to be out on
I
my
love that. It
own.
sounds like the book is helpful for people in that space, but also like the parents who will help guide them through that time in their life. So I love that. And
Yeah.
who was the author of that book again?
Julie Lithcott
Awesome.
Haynes.
Awesome.
It's a really good book. I gave it to both of my 20 somethings. I have twin sons who are
Nice.
24 now. I'm not sure whether they cracked it open or
Boys
not,
can be
but
hard headed.
they read books, but I don't know if they read that one because, I gave it to them, so they may they may want to get around to it at some point. But yes, that it was a really good
Nice.
Awesome.
really good book.
Okay, our next question for you is if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Superpower.
I know that one. This one is kind of can be tricky.
Time
Ooh.
travel.
Oh, nice. Is there a particular
Yes.
time you want to
Yes.
go back to first?
I really would like it has more to do with being able to connect with people that are no longer here. That's really where I would want it really has more to do with that than a
Okay.
particular era that I enjoyed living in. The only thing I'll say is that the 80s were back in fashion. So aside from wanting to connect with loved ones that may have been still with me during that era, I would
That's
not like to revisit the
funny.
80s.
I thought I was gonna say like, oh, I'll go back in time and like best bet on like a sporting event or something.
That's like Back to the Future, where they
Yeah,
have
like
the
when you like hit
almanac.
it big. Oh, her reason was so much better.
I
Okay.
know. That's very good reason. Very good reason. Okay, and then last but not least, so we are the Two Mics, Two Glasses podcast, so we always have a bevy that we are presenting. So, what are you drinking today for your beverage of choice?
Right now, I am drinking
I
Ooh,
love that
water,
glass.
fancy.
and I drink a lot of water. Actually, this is part of a set, and you'll notice it has Ethiopian paintings on it. We got it in Ethiopia. My
Beautiful.
husband's
That is a
Ethiopian.
nice glass.
Awesome. Awesome.
So what are we drinking?
Yes, so today we have our first sponsored bottle. Woohoo! Making moves. So we're drinking Imperial 202 Dolce Rosé. It's a captivating sparkling wine crafted from a blend of Malbec and Bonarada grapes. Haven't heard of that one.
Exclusive. It's exclusive.
Yes. This rosé delights with this lush, sweet profile, offering vibrant notes of ripe berries and a touch of floral elegance. Perfect for those who appreciate a sweeter wine. Plus, Imperial 202 is Black owned, so you're supporting a minority owned business with every bottle, and the company is called Lack World Trade. If you want to grab a bottle yourself, you can head over to imperial202.com to find retailers near you, and obviously the link will be in the description as it always is. So thank you, Lack World Trade, for your sponsorship, and cheers.
It's not bad.
It's delicious. It's
I
real
know.
good.
And you know I don't like rosé, but that's good.
Yeah, it's kind of champagne-like because it's very bubbly, but it's really sweet too. It's really very nice.
Like a nice. Would it be good for dessert or
Yeah, I feel like dessert.
or like a summer day?
Yeah, definitely some. That's good. That's good.
Nice.
Bravo.
Thank you to our sponsors.
Yes. All right.
All right, let's get into this interview. We need to, let's get into it.
Yes. Okay, Carol. Tell us, I know we read your bio, but just kind of tell us in your own words, what you do and how you help parents out there.
Well, I have a special place in my heart for working moms. And I give them tools and strategies to consciously connect with their children, to confidently teach them skills for life, and courageously tap into their parenting journey. And the reason I say that is because a lot of working moms, they find that they are so confident and effective in their professional lives, but they look at their children and wonder why they can't pull it all together. Sometimes they just feel overwhelmed. And so children don't come with a manual, but there are some things, there are some skills that will help you to get things organized, to connect with your children, and really create a routine and just a family environment that works for your family. Again, it won't come from a manual, but they're just certain elements of aspects of family life that you can tune into and make it a family situation that works for everybody. And so that's what I like to do. And the reason I feel very passionate about it is because moms and dads become overwhelmed. They kind of forget about the joy and the anticipation they felt when they discovered they were going to be parents, whether they were going to be parents through birth or adoption or any of other ways that children may come into their lives. They probably were very excited and just had all of these ideas. And then the children come and they realize it's kind of hard. And there are seasons where it really is challenging, where it's very hands on. You feel like you're out of your element. You don't know what to do exactly. And so I like to provide skills so that parents can get back to that space where they are enjoying parenting because, as they say, the days are long, but the years are short. So we want to be able to enjoy those moments because they really do pass by
Yeah,
quickly.
that's so true. What would you say was your like main inspiration for starting this business outside of like understanding that, but like kind of what were the steps that you took to kind of get to the place to be this resource for parents?
I would start with saying that my children really were the inspiration for it because prior to them being born, I was in corporate marketing. And I thought I would come home for a few months, stay with them, find someone that would be able to take care of them while I was going back to work. I fully expected to go back to work, go back to corporate marketing. Of course, I just fell in love with them, kept adding on to my leave, staying longer and longer. And then our sons were about 13 months old. One son was diagnosed with developmental delays. And so once I saw all that would be involved, the different specialists that he would need to see to help him to shore up his skills, I felt like I needed to be at home to take him to the appointments and to guide him through this. And my husband and I decided together that would work out. And so that was the first thing, just getting me to stay home. They were the inspiration for that. That was very foreign to me. My mother was not a stay-at-home mom. My friends' moms were not stay-at-home moms. So that was very new to me. So that was the start. But then of course, when I started taking my son to those appointments and also reading everything I could to be able to help him. I just started learning so much and I just became so fascinated with child development and really human development if you think about it. So that's sort of where that's gave me the spark. And then as they were about 2 years old, a little older than 2 years old, I heard from God in a dream that really everything that I was learning from the specialists and from reading and attending conferences and all of that to help my son was not going to be just for my family. It was really, God told me that I was going to use what I was learning to help other families help their children to reach their full potential, just like I wanted for my own. And so that's really where it
Wow,
started.
awesome. You like gaining that knowledge, did that also lead to you writing some of these books? Because I saw you're a 7-time best-selling author.
Yes, definitely. My first solo book, because I have participated in a few anthologies, my first solo book was my mini motherhood memoir, Mother's Work, Pearls of Wisdom and Gems from My Journey. And so that was really a reflection on my experience and the anchors that I found in my life to keep me focused, because there's a lot of distraction. I didn't have social media early on to distract me, but you can very easily look at what other people are doing, and your friends, your family, and feel like you want to keep up with the Joneses or what have you. And so I had to really make sure I focused on my own children and what their needs were, the values that I wanted my children to have, what was important to my family, and focus on that. And so I knew that I wasn't alone. I knew that other mothers were probably struggling with that kind of thing too. So I wanted to provide my book. It certainly talks about my experiences, but what I also hope that readers would draw from that is the importance of charting your own course and recognizing that anything that you see going on, whether you're in the store or at the movie theater or at the playground, you're only seeing a snapshot in time when you look at how other people relate to their children. But you don't know the backstory. You don't know how hard they had to work to get to that point. You don't even know if it's always like that. That might have been their lucky day. So the important thing is for you to focus on the connection that you have with your own child, and I call it the covenant you have with your own child, and your vision of the adult you hope that they will grow up to be. Focus on that and work toward that today to help them to be the courageous, confident, capable, compassionate adults that we need to lead this world.
Amazing.
That's good. That's so good because I think a lot of times, well, I was also guilty of this, but there's a lot of judgment when you just see like families out or kids and how they behave or don't behave. And then the evil bug of comparison always gets you whether you have kids or not. So I could see that being even more like of a very difficult thing to see is like, I can barely control my kid and this kid is over here acting like this, or, just the things you can get trapped into as you're parenting and growing, and there's no manual. You don't know how your kid's going to turn out. They could be, you just don't know that they're their own person. And so just having someone to guide you through things like that and help you to understand that it's normal to not know what's going on. It's normal to feel what you're feeling. It's probably invaluable. So, it's really nice to know that there are people out there that do that. But I want to get to business. I have some business questions for you. So becoming like a resource for people and like leveraging yourself as a coach isn't always the easiest thing, or not. I don't know if coach is the right word, but like being that person to
coach.
guide.
There's a lot of people that are
there are a lot of people who want to be coaches, right? And a lot of people who believe that they are qualified to be coaches. But I want to know, from your perspective in business, like how do you really set yourself apart and let people know, like, you are the go-to? I mean, honestly, I haven't looked for a lot of parenting coaches, so I would say you're the first one that I've met, but I'm sure there may be others out there. But like, could you just share with our audience, like how you really developed and became confident to say?
So, a couple of ways. First of all, my experience, the time that I've spent doing it, also earning certifications both in parent education and also parenting consultation. The other way is honestly my approach, because some parenting coaches will focus on correcting behavior right away. And obviously, that is important to me as well, but I've always focused on the relationship first, because there can't really be any correction without connection. So there needs to be an underlying relationship that you have with your children, a foundation that you set so that you can begin to teach. And also, as children develop, they'll have challenging behaviors at one age, and then they'll move into the next phase, and so there'll be something else. I found that even when my children were toddlers and I was taking parenting classes just for myself, just out of curiosity, because I wanted to be a good parent, I had all of the same challenges that a lot of other people in my class had, trying to get the children out of the house in the morning for preschool, or trying to get them to go to bed at night, getting the routine together, meltdowns, tantrums, all of that. I had all of that too. But what I really wanted to get clear on was my parenting philosophy was what I was trying to accomplish down the road, because there are a lot of ways you can shut children down. You can get them to behave. I mean, we're bigger than they are. We're, more powerful than they are. So we can force them to do what we want them to do in the moment. But that doesn't really teach them anything. What they will learn is, if I yell loud enough, if I put my hands on somebody, I can get them to do what I want them to do, rather than teaching them why it's important to do what it is, like why it is important for us to get our clothes on and get ready to get out of the house, why it is that we need to go to the store, get what we need, get our groceries or whatever, and come back, why you should make up your bed, why you should put your toys, that kind of thing. And it's not that you're standing there reasoning with them all the time, but it's all about communicating the process, showing them, training them, about what appropriate behavior is. And then you'll be able to step back and they'll be able to start doing it themselves. But if it's a matter of yelling and whatever, you'll get the problem solved in that moment, but they're not really learning what to do over the long
How
haul.
do you get them to understand like why that why is important? For example, why is it important for you to make your bed? Like, how do you get them to understand the importance of, like, why is it important to have a clean house or to have a clean room or to pick up after, themselves?
And so, even with you, when you have really young children, and they're young, they don't have a lot of language yet, but you can still say things, and they will begin to catch on. So it's like, we have to tie your shoes. We have to tie your shoes because you might trip over them. Or if you say,
I'm sure you're enjoying this episode, but we wanted to quickly pop in to let you know about the cool swag we're wearing today. AMW Apparel is a line of inspirational and entrepreneurial clothing for those looking to stand out and make a statement to their following. We provide comfortable and high quality t-shirts, sweatshirts, tank tops, and more. Enter code 2mics2glasses, which is the number 2, MICS, the number 2 again, GLASSES, with no spaces, for 10% off your first order at shopwithamw.com. Link in the description. We appreciate your support.
or if you say, let's put the toys away so that tomorrow you'll be able to find them, or, you're not, it's nothing deep, but, really simple, right? And for example, if you have a bookshelf or something like that, the smart thing is to do is the things that they're allowed to touch or what have you, have them on the lower level so that they can access them. But you can tell them, if you need something else, call me, mom or dad will get it for you. We don't climb on the furniture. We don't climb on the furniture. You might fall. I mean, it's just little things like that. You're just giving them, and I call that news you can use, because that's information that they can use to make a decision about their behavior and all of those things, because you can tell them, for example, if they want to go, they want to go out and play, just for example, but they've left their toys and books all over the place, and shoes and what have you. You can go outside after you clean up, after you put your shoes away, after you put your toys away, then you can go outside. That's information. It's like, that's so they can now decide, do they want to push back against you and not do what you asked, and then not get what they want going outside, or they just learned, well, actually, I can go outside. She didn't say no. I can go outside if I clean up. So that's information. That's something for them, to consider, and go on and put the toys away and do whatever. And if they choose not to, well, you're cool,
Right.
because they're not going outside. You said, you, you said what you said.
Makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of works with adults too. Like, if you don't finish your job, you can't go outside, which
Yeah, I mean, and if it's a situation like
Hmm.
that's kind of simple, you could you know the consequence for them is they don't get to go outside, and on the other hand, your family room's not cleaned up the way you want it, and but that's something you
Hmm.
might be able to live with in the moment. But if it's you're out at the restaurant, say for example, and maybe they're not behaving, they're making noise, they're looking over the seat at the other people behind you, not behaving, then you might need to take an action.
Let
You
it.
can't just kind of, because you're affecting other people. You can't just kind of let it ride. So it's like, well, okay, we're gonna get ready to go because we'll try to come here another time, but today we're not sitting down the way we need
Mm.
to, so we're gonna have to go. And then just go, pick everybody up. Let's go. I mean, and again, there's going to be pushback. There's going to be tears. All of that. You got to learn to live with that in order to teach them the proper way
Mm.
to
Yeah,
behave.
So
right.
it sounds like there has to be a lot of like self control as an adult who some like adults who aren't always like emotionally healed themselves trying to help kids to do things and not react when you want to react
Oh,
yourself.
like not lose your temper with the
Yeah,
kid.
like, I might also be, and then I'm hungry.
Sure, but the thing is, I'm that's it's not a matter of you. Okay, I'm going to hold my breath. They make me so mad. I'm just not. It's not that. I mean, because that's the thing. Once I went took parenting classes myself and learned some skills, then I stopped being getting as upset. But because I mean, a prime example, my sons were in preschool. They were probably about 3. So one son was in a different program. So I had another son with me, and we would be picking the other son up later. I would pick my one son up from his preschool, and I would say, "What do you want for lunch?" And he'd say, "I want lasagna." And I'm like, "What is wrong with this kid? He is so." This is what I'm thinking. He's so spoiled. Does he not understand
Right.
how much work it takes to make lasagna? And he wants me to make lasagna in the middle of the day. He's so spoiled. He's so hard to manage. He gets on my nerves. This is what I'm thinking. But I had gone to a parenting class, had just learned about choices. And so I asked him what he wanted.
Right. He
He
didn't know
told
there
me
was a
what he
limit
wanted,
in the
but
choices.
I didn't give him any
Right.
Hmm.
boundaries. I didn't narrow it down. So after having taken that particular class, we were driving and I said, "So what do you want for lunch? We've got hot dogs, we have mini quiches. Let me know what you want." He said, "I want a cheeseburger." Well, just let me know what you want for lunch because we have hot dogs and mini quiches. And I wasn't upset because I already knew
Yeah.
that those were the two, one of those
But that
two
was a
were the
really
only
nice
things I was going to
reaction for
make.
you to be like, we don't have any cheeseburgers. Like I told, like I'm sure a lot of parents.
Yeah. And so, I asked that question twice. And he's like,
He had
"I
to
want a hot
decide.
dog."
He learned.
And I was like, I was thinking, there you go. But prior to that, I was projecting all of that onto him. And he was only 3, 2.5 or 3. And I had all this in there that he was intentionally doing that. And, he was selfish to expect me to make lasagna and all of this. And I hadn't given him enough
Mm,
news he could use
Yeah,
to make the
that
right
makes a
decision.
lot of sense.
I know.
I feel like I'm learning so much already for my future kid or kids.
Yeah. So, like, how old were your kids when you started developing into? Because I know you did a lot of radio, and I know your journey wasn't completely linear to getting to the business parenting 411. But like, how did you juggle being like an entrepreneur mom and like what was their age? How did you kind of manage that?
I did it in seasons, honestly, because the reason why I was home was because of them. And not only that, I had some specific things I need to work on to help my son to be ready for kindergarten, just to even start school. And his journey in overcoming his challenges didn't end there, but at a minimum, I had to make sure I had him ready for kindergarten. So they were my priority. So I didn't go full on entrepreneur when they were young that way. But I would say I continued to take the parenting classes. And then after about two classes, and I think the boys were probably three and a half, the organization that offered the parenting classes that I was involved with, they asked me to take a leadership course so that I could learn to teach classes. And so I was still doing that. Now, that I could handle while they were still young. I could do that. I think I completed my certification when they were about five. The boys were about five. And still, I did lead courses, or I worked as an assistant, kind of worked my way up the ladder the more hours I got. I did do that, but I definitely was selective about which courses I did, because I had the boys at home. My husband often traveled, so really this was something that I was working on, but they were the priority. And I would say that they were about 9 years old when I formed my first parent education company with another mom. And so then we started working with some nonprofit organizations to provide parent engagement programs for schools in Alexandria. So it was really, I really progressed as they became more independent, and as they grew, then my activities in my business grew, because that was just my priority. It wasn't, when they were younger, it wasn't a thing where my income, we were dependent on my income in that way. I did earn income, but my priority was the children when they were younger.
Tell us a little bit about this 2024 Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award you received.
Well, honored for that, because I do a lot of community service work, and a lot of that revolved around my children. So when they were in elementary school, I think probably first grade, starting for kindergarten or first grade, I was on the board of their school. I did that for 7 years. In my church, I was the head of children's worship for 7 years. So it kind of progressed along the way with them. And then I was in a mother's organization as well, that the children were a part of. And I also was very active with the sports teams and things like that. Those are kinds of activities that the boys were part of. So a lot of it was just, again, progressed along with them. What they were involved in, I was involved in, because I felt like I saw lots of people volunteering their time and pouring into my children as well as others. And so I thought the least I could do is also give back as well. So I did a lot of things like that, and as well with my sorority. So those were the kinds of things that usually they're looking for. They want you to. It's about community service and making
Is
a
it
difference.
is there a nomination process, or do they just select from what they've observed?
It's done different ways, because you have to, first of all, an organization or a person would have to apply for the right to even recognize people
Okay.
under that program. So they have to become approved by the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award organization, AmeriCorps,
Okay.
to even be able to do that. And then they make it known that they are doing that. They're recommending people, and you can submit. You can tell them about what it is that you've done, and then you can be selected for the award.
Awesome.
Congratulations. That's amazing. That's recent. That's
Yes.
Thank
2024,
you.
like
This year.
just year.
Whoop,
So
whoop.
what an amazing accomplishment. It's so like it's slightly overwhelming just to be, so active and so hopeful that, you are awarded for everything that you've done over your life. I know that your kids now are older and they're moving out or going to college and things like that. How is business now, and how are you like transitioning to them kind of growing up and maybe needing you less? Like what is, how would you help others who may be going through the same thing and trying to adjust to their new free time and things like that?
To adjust to their
Yeah.
adult children moving on.
Especially when you have a brand all about parenting. So you've basically dedicated their entire, childhood, it sounds like, to the study of them and making sure you're
Well,
doing a great
right.
job. You and the people that you coach.
Right, and absolutely, and that's why when you asked about how I balanced it with the children growing up, I was like, I can't go out and talk about parenting and then not be showing
Right.
up for my children. so so you definitely have to build a good foundation. And this isn't to say that I'm perfect, but I have a good relationship with them. I communicate with them every day, even sometimes small ways, sometimes more in depth conversations. But you have to really recognize that your parenting experience rolls out in seasons, which has a lot to do with the abilities that they have, their the skills and all of that. And you're very hands-on in the beginning, so you're more like a hands-on manager. And then over time, you can train them and teach them how to do different things. You can teach them how to solve problems. You can kind of step back and be a coach a little bit, kind of on the sidelines, giving them direction about where to go. And then next, you move into consultant. So you have to recognize that you can't always, they're going to do stuff that, you might not agree with. And you have to recognize that you're there to weigh in. And now you might be a little more inclined to ask permission, if you can weigh in, if you, if you can tell what you think they should do. And but at this point you're a consultant when they're in their 20s. But if you really kind of played your role in those other stages, number one, they'll probably have a lot of skills, because particularly if you let them make some mistakes, like that's really in that coaching phase, that's very important. Allow them to make some mistakes, especially because the stakes are lower, and you don't want them to get to 20 years old and say, all right, it's you got it, it's all you now. And you haven't really allowed them to make mistakes, to live with the mistakes, to resolve and recover. That's really important to do. Really, all along the way, find ways to do that. And then, by the time they're adults, you just hope that they'll do the right thing. And I have found that obviously they kind of young folks kind of go through this phase where parents don't know anything. I mean, it was the dark ages when their parents were growing up, so they just can't relate to what's happening now. And then something's just like a switch that happens, and then they start calling you. So like, what do you think?
That's good. That's a
I'm
good transition. That's like where we are.
thinking about
Yeah,
this.
trusted
I'm thinking about this
advisor, your
car.
parents.
Or
I said I
what did you
love that
say?
transition because it really means that the kids are looking to you as a trusted advisor, and that's a stage that me and Lauren are in too now with our parents.
Oh, yes. And so, I mean, and I went through it too. I can remember it as well, when things kind of switched for me. And then all of a sudden I was calling my mom every day, asking about how something or, and that's kind of where they are. So it's been very nice to have them calling us to say, this is what I'm thinking about doing. So, yeah.
This series that we're doing is called How I Got Started. And it basically, is about how you got started in your business. I think from some of the things that you said today, it made me think about other women or other people in general who maybe they have kids and they want young kids and they want to either extend that period of time that they're with the young kids, or they may want to, go out on some type of entrepreneurial endeavor, while their kids are young, because of that transition of being able to take a break from working in corporate. Do you have any suggestions for people who are partnered or people who are single on how they can
Navigate.
maximize, navigate that time period that they're at home with their kids and hopefully extend it? Do you have any recommendations
Oh,
on
like
how they can,
maximize the time they're
yeah,
home.
how they could make the most of that time so that if they
When
do
they're
want
little,
to,
little.
work for themselves, they can actually make that happen?
Oh, absolutely. And I talk about that in an anthology. Actually, it was the very, very first anthology I ever participated in. And it was a book written by women entrepreneurs who talked about their journey. And so in mine, which was called Scaling Up from Marketing Manager to Mother of the Year, because in 2019 I was named DC Mother of the Year. But I had some steps for that really kind of mapped out how I did it. And so, and I teach about that in a webinar called Show Up as You Glow Up. And so the first thing is to make the connections with your children. That's first and foremost. So definitely work through that. And in my course, I have a lot of strategies for how you do that. But connect with your children, first of all, get attuned to who they are, and develop a loving connection with them. Next, it's important to create systems. And there, I'm talking about routines and how you're going to do things. I mean, even if you were a stay at home mom, which I was, trying to just do things on the fly is not a good it's definitely not a good idea. I found for myself that I was like the Wicked Witch of the West one day, and then I was cool and calm the next day. It's very not consistent, and children need consistency. So that's why it's important to create the systems. Next, you really need to compile your assets, meaning what knowledge do you have? What skills do you have? What do you enjoy doing? And if there's something that you're interested in and you don't quite have everything lined up, make note of that. Like, what is that, and how can you get that? And you may not be able to pursue everything all at once, but you can take steps. Just know that you're working toward that. Like for myself, I started an LLC when my children it was before a year old, because I knew I wanted to, at the time, I wanted to have a marketing company. And so, marketing and sales strategy company. So I started that. That didn't mean I was working in it every day because I still had little kids, but I could do little things. I could do research, I could talk to people in the industry and all of that. So that part is really your compiling your assets. And so after you've figured out what you have, then it's about continuous learning, always finding ways. I was always reading books whenever I took my children to any appointments, any doctor's appointment, any kind of situation where I found myself waiting for my kids. I always had a book with me. So I read a lot. I attended workshops and conferences, things like that. And then the fifth C is conquer the moment. And that's meaning in due season, then you really get out there and go at it. And that's really what happened for me, because I believe it was in, let's see, 2015, I had sort of stopped doing some of the workshops that I had been doing, for parents in Virginia, because my children were entering high school. And I said, I've really got to be plugged in. So at that point, I got an opportunity to produce a radio show, a parenting radio show. And so I said, I think I'll do occasionally, if it's the right opportunity, I'll speak or do a workshop. But the radio show is probably all I can do right now. And so it was once a month, and then it was twice a month. And so that was my focus. Then they went to college, and then I just ramped up, and then I just kind of really opened up and started doing more things. So a lot of it is those 5 C's, and also just recognizing that there are seasons. There are seasons to your parenting journey, and there are seasons in which your business is going to grow. So if you approach it that way and not get frustrated because you don't have everything locked down all at once, I think you can be
Love
successful.
it.
I know, the
That's
five
amazing.
C's.
Yes, it was amazing. I hope y'all got those C's
Write your
written
notes.
down.
Write them notes.
Very important C's.
This is from an OG mom, okay? She's been there and done
Parenting
that.
extraordinaire.
I know.
So, Carol, so we're gonna wrap things up, but two final things. One, what's your final words of advice to an audience of early stage or aspiring entrepreneurs? And then 2, can you share your, ways that people can get in touch with you or follow you?
And any projects.
And any projects you're working on.
So when it comes to parenting, and also combining that with being an entrepreneur, I go back to what we talked about in the beginning, and that is that there can be no correction without connection. You can't teach anybody anything if they can't relate to you. And so start there for sure, making the connection. And then the next thing is that it's never too late to be the parent you want to be, and it's also not, it's never too late to be what you want to be, especially when you're willing to work for it. So recognize the seasonality of life, of your parenting journey, as well as your business. And I think that if you think about it in terms of those 5 C's, that will be a great resource and a great way to plot your course.
So, how can people get in touch with you or follow you?
They can follow me at the Parenting 411 on Facebook, Instagram, as well as YouTube. And I also offer my mini motherhood memoir, free copy, just pay shipping and handling. But you also get a webinar on parent child communication as well as a handbook. And folks can pick that up at at mothersworkthebook.com. That's
Awesome.
mothersworkthebook.com.
Amazing.
I know, you're like
Amazing.
goals, like I don't know, like, as we look forward into parenting and being working moms,
What was
we
that?
just are so inspired by you. So go ahead and explain.
She was saying
Oh.
your goals, and as we look forward to being, working moms or entrepreneurial moms, we aspire to be, how you've navigated it and be like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And hopefully we can garner some wisdom.
Yes, I think
Through
we
your
already
program.
have. Yeah, we already have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So-
what are we toasting to?
Yes, so we're going to do a toast. Let's see, what do we want to toast to today?
I mean, moms,
Moms, working moms,
working
or
moms, like,
being
I
able
love
to
my mom.
master mommery and entrepreneurship.
and entrepreneurship and, leaning into the journey of motherhood, I
Yes,
guess. And
love
not, no judging, just let your journey be yours and,
Yeah.
call Carol if you need some help.
Yes.
Okay?
So cheers to leaning
Cheers to
into
that.
the journey of motherhood.
Click, click, click.
Awesome.